Brass. With this, let me also welcome my friend from UK, Mr. Naval Gun.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Looking forward to a nice, snappy little discussion this morning. Lots of things happening in the world.
There are many things happening in the world, and there are many things happening in India. So let me tell you, apart from the bigger things which are political in nature, there is a big movement in India which is about the schools. So let me give you a little background. See, in India, there are two types of schools. One is purely government funded and aided, and the others are the private schools. The private schools are very, very popular, and most parents want to send their kids to the private schools. And the government schools have a standard fee system. They have the government employees as teachers, and wherever you go in any part of India, they follow certain construction style. So you will not see much of difference in the government aided or government schools. The fees also very less. But in the private sector, the schools have evolved into a multi-tier system. There are schools where only politician kids will go. Then there are schools where only industrialist children will. And then there are mediocre schools, and everybody says that, hey, I follow this system, that system of study. I have the least stress on the kids when they study. I don't give any homework, blah, blah, blah. So all these are sales talks which are done by the schools, private schools. And on the basis of the sales talks, they actually jack up their fee structure. And parents also get into a lot of pressure because they want to give good study to their children. They also want to make sure that their children, when they grow up, should not ask, hey, Papa, you did not give me good training. You did not send me to nice school. So I think this whole vicious circle has created an environment where parents pay through the nose in order to buy an experience for their kids. And I wanted to give this background so that from this point we can start discussion. What is happening because of COVID? All that experience has gone down the drain. People have paid certain fee, but the students are studying at home using home Wi-Fi system, home PC, and home camera, and supervision is done by the parents themselves. So this is happening, and the schools are, of course, they're running a business. They want to charge the same amount of fee. So this is the subject that we want to take up today, where parents are sort of teaming up together, and they don't want to pay the fee because they are not sending their kids to school anymore. The kids are doing home study. So what is your take on this subject, Neville?
Well, it's an interesting arena, and I come from the background of believing that education should be free for everybody, and it shouldn't be a postcode lottery. That might sound very idealistic, but I do believe that we should all be given that opportunity when we're young, up to the age of, let's say, 18, even university, where we should be given the opportunity to push ourselves academically and personally. The personal drive seems to have gone in the last 20 or 30 years, but that's a different story. So I'm professing my idealist expectations, but now the sad reality is that you mentioned education is a business, and as a business, we if we're buying into, we're buying into the public, the public school arena. In other words, that's provided by the government because we're paying our taxes, so the government can actually create that opportunity. So we're paying in already. Lots of parents, however, like us, like you, want the best for our children, and we're prepared to pay more for a better education. So we are in our mind already saying that the public education isn't good enough. How do we know? Because I went through public education here. I was fortunate, I suppose, that I went to a grammar school. But frankly, as I was going through it, all I did was pass an exam level entry. My parents didn't pay extra for me to go to the grammar school because it was part of public education. But I do want the best for my children. And I'm sure every parent listening here wants the best for their children. But the question is, what's best for them? Certainly not giving them a silver spoon so they never have to struggle for the rest of their life. Let's face it, when they started to learn to walk, that was a huge struggle. But they got over it. And they didn't go to school to do it. They got up and did it. They had that confidence. So what is it, I suppose, about this education system? And we're not just talking about India here, we're talking globally, because every education system around the world has followed what India's going through now. And as you say, now your kids are at home. What is the benefit of this similar education that they're getting online, that they can get from any other online provider, but they're not having that personal relationship that you're paying extra for? Because that's, I'm going to this good local school, which is charging a fee over and above that which the public arena charges. You want value for money. Why? Because it's coming out of your pocket. And education has become just another product, a commodity, a service, call it what you like. And we're looking at the value proposition. The question I've got for everybody is, should we really be looking at it that way? And remember, we're looking at it in a way that's best for our children. How do we know what's best for the children? I didn't go through a private education. Did I turn around to my parents and say, Dad, you didn't pay enough for me? The answer is no, I didn't. I never did. Because I knew that they stretched to put me through the education that I went through. So I had values in my life that were instilled in me very, very young. So I knew the value of money. I knew what we could afford as a family, and I was disappointed or excited one way or the other. And clearly, I wanted a Christmas like every other kid had a Christmas. I wanted the Nike trade. Well, Nike weren't around when I was very young, but I wanted those Adidas football boots that every other kid had as Adidas football boots. And every other kid had them. Well, they didn't actually. Parents went without to give their kids something that they really couldn't afford. So education is this funny one. I mean, I'm going around in a bit of a circle here because I think we've lost values in this particular arena, despite the fact we want our children to have the best opportunity. But I do think we should not be providing it on a plate. We should actually be saying, well, line up for dinner and there's lots on the menu and it's up to you to choose. And of course, kids do that because, that's 40 rupees, chips are 15 rupees, piece of fish is 55 rupees. They already have value in their mind when they're queuing up for that dinner queue. I think we need to get back to some basics and instill some real values into our kids and stop paying this postcode lottery and sending your kids to the best school out there. Because again, the next issue is, does the best school in the district have the best education? Are they the best teachers? Are they the best teachers because they pay more? And then you get this whole sequence of events that happens, and we're moving further and further away of the purpose of education.
So you are so right, Neville. When I was studying, I was also studying in the government school, and my parents were paying whatever fee as per their salary standards, because that's how the fee structure was. If your parent's salary is high, you pay slightly higher, and if your parent's salary is low, you pay slightly lower. But the education system was standard, and for the benefit of giving right value so that my parents were giving me pocket money so that I don't go high and dry. So my sister and I, they were being given certain amount of small pocket money where we can buy some toffees and small things on
Yeah.
our own. So we actually learn this life. We learn the education, and we also learn how to buy things and stuff like that. But in today's world, with our kids, this is not happening. We are first of all paying through the nose and that too because of the peer pressure, because when we meet parents and we brag about, hey, my kid goes to this school, the other parents say, hey, my kid goes to this academy, and so on. So it's become more of a value driven system. It has become a commodity. So let's understand this has become a commodity. That's a point number one. Point number two is, in the COVID season, when the kids are not going to school, and the schools have so much land, they have playground, and they have teachers, and they have infrastructure. They want to charge the fee because they have expenses. My point is, just because they are just doing a process where the teacher comes in front of a camera and do all sorts of things. They are teaching maths, they are also teaching sports, they are teaching yoga, and they are also teaching music. And surprisingly, they are also teaching dance. You know, so I don't think this is sufficient. I feel that just by using a free platform from Google, you just have a camera access, and then you come in front of the student. They are not getting any value of any sort. They are not getting networking with other kids. They are not learning anything. What's the point in teacher in her bedroom running around and doing yoga? I don't think that is a value. So I think in order to school to evolve, also they have to think out of the box. That is what I am thinking as a spender of money, as a parent.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if we're going to be, in essence, we're still on this debate about it's a commodity, it's a purchase. We want value for money. I'd like to take it probably in a completely different direction, and say if you were to start the global education model from scratch, what would you do? Bear in mind, today we have got connectivity like we've never had connectivity before. Like you and I, we're on Google Meets. There are so many platforms that are out there where we can transcend the world. We can go all the way around the globe, and we can all be on the same platform discussing the same subject with a marginal difference in latency. It may be 2 or 3 seconds now. If we were to literally, you're in India, I'm in the UK, if we had someone from Singapore, someone from New Zealand, and someone from America, if we were all on, we would just have to perhaps slow down our talking a little bit, because there will be a bit of latency in there. But nonetheless, we can all talk together at the same time, fundamentally. So I've seen some really good systems around the world. I mean, the Khan Academy was absolutely brilliant when it first started, and it started on the premise of free education for all. We're going to get the funds, and we're going to provide this platform where it's free for everybody, and we're going to get the best teachers to come and present online. So again, just imagine, you and I are probably not too old, but perhaps a little bit too young to have seen Einstein in the flesh. This massive guru, hair up here, or mad professor here. I would have loved to have listened to Einstein talk about his theory of relativity the way he would explain it. And the point is, today we just Google it. We want to learn about, this is education in its rawest form. If you want to learn about Einstein's theory of relativity, you can go onto YouTube and you can find it. It's a bit crackly. But the point is, you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. And the nice thing is, if you've not quite understood what he said, you can stop it, go back and have another look until you've got it in your mind. The repetition has been created. And now you've heard about Einstein's theory of relativity from Einstein. Now imagine the power in that. So when you then go into your day school, you've all had the same teacher. Now it's up to your new teacher, who, for want of a better term, we're now going to call your coach, who's going to expand your thought process beyond the great teacher that Einstein gave you. I mean, if we could have heard Isaac Newton talk about gravity, immediately my brain is just going, what would I have given? What would anyone have given? I mean, just for anyone listening, by the way, Isaac Newton was around long before any of this. The theory of gravity. Go and Google it. It wasn't this century, it wasn't last century, and it wasn't even the century before. So just go and Google it. We didn't have TV, we didn't have radio. No, Marconi wasn't even a twinkle in his parents' or great grandparents' eyes. So, but just imagine now, you're hearing all of this great theory from the people that had created the theory. And if we could do that, then actually the education system starts to take on a different form. And it becomes a global education system. But of course, if we were to think that way, we wouldn't have any country barriers. We wouldn't have any country borders. We would have freedom of movement all around the world. So again, we're talking about a utopian state here that probably will never, ever exist. Certainly not in our lifetime. Maybe in someone else's in the future. But if you were to start off with the education system today, what would you do? Is that appealing,
No, I think most of the parents are fully aware. No sane parents will send their kids to school for next 2 years because they don't want their children to get COVID. So we know that, this lifestyle is going to be there for 2 years. But for 2 years, which is a very long time, kids cannot just stay at home and do nothing. And this is not sufficient, just use a camera and dance around in front of the children and as if you're running your day school class. This is not sufficient. So I think schools, in my opinion, as a parent, have to do slightly change in or rather recalibrate the way they are doing things. And
you see, you're absolutely right there, because what you've done is you've given this a kick of reality. And the reality is we don't have school as we always have been used to school. Kids are not physically leaving the front door of the house, walking to school or getting on the scooter or getting on the school bus and going in through the school gates and then into a classroom where they're learning with their mates. They're doing what we're doing here. They're listening to a teacher that, frankly, they don't know whether they're on the south of France on holiday, because they've got the school backdrop behind them, or they're in downtown Mumbai. Things have changed. We've got to get over that situation, and the schools need to adapt. They need to change. And sadly, we're going to go back straight to this value proposition. You and I both know there are lots of other things you can do online if you're not physically in the workshop. People call me a trainer. Okay, we do group coaching. If that's called training, I'm not quite sure. We do workshop capability. We have for years been doing these workshops around the world, not just physically, but also digitally. It's a completely different arena doing it digitally. If we had 4 or 5 people on this call, they could be from all over the world. We can't physically do a high five or shake hands. We can do this, which is really nice to say hello and, welcome. But we've got to develop a different way of doing things. And sadly, I think the majority of the education system again, this isn't a monopoly of India, and it's not a criticism of anybody, but we're stuck in the model.
You're
So
right.
rather than come to school, it's go online, deliver a lesson, do the work in the lesson, now close online down or move to your next class, do the homework, come back into school. That, for a young person that thrives on the very team effect that you have in a classroom, doesn't work. I mean, I know teachers that have said, I can't do this. I can't see the kids. I can't walk around the classroom. So I've helped quite a few of them actually get a body cam and say, rather than do this sit down stuff, get up and walk around, but have the body cam with you. And mentally just walk around your own room, put chairs there and talk to these children by name, and all of a sudden the majority of them say, blimey, that worked. And I said, well, okay, so pass that on to the rest of your teaching profession and get it to work for them. And it's amazing what you can do with a little bit of thought. But we've got 2 years of this probably, and we've got to be doing it. Otherwise, you will get the rebellion of parents saying, "Why am I paying these fees? Where's the value proposition?" It's not a language I like to have in education, frankly. As I said at the very beginning, my belief is education should be free for all. And the thought of a value proposition means that you're assigning a sales ticket to it. You're walking into a shopping mall and saying, "Oh, look, this is half price." Well, it looks the same, yeah, but this one's half price. Just doesn't work for me. So, but anyway, maybe what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the value proposition is a very real thing because, for example, you mentioned Newton. Now, Newton had to solve his problem of gravity because he was not able to come out with a mathematical formula, the law of gravity. So he invented the entire new mathematics, which is called calculus. Now, when we were studying calculus, we were just tearing our hairs apart, So if imagine a situation where some kid in the middle school understanding calculus, I don't think they will ever be able to understand the way the teachers are teaching them what is calculus. Okay, so calculus can be a more difficult subject. How about Pythagoras theorem, which is 2000-year old? Archimedes, he invented Pythagoras theorem. I think it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare of any middle school student to understand Pythagoras theorem. And they have to do it to go to the next class. So in the current system, can they really teach Pythagoras theorems? Can they really teach language? There are some 3 languages are compulsory in India. India is a multilingual country.
Yep.
We have 3 languages compulsory in India, which is English, Hindi, and colloquial language. So we speak our mother tongue at home. That is fine. Kids will learn, right? But I know they don't know how to write. How they can speak, but how they will write? They don't know even how to make the characters. Same is the case with any other language. So how are schools going to teach language, simple things like language to the students? By just coming in front of camera and saying, "Hello children, how are you?" And, "Hey, so what are you doing? Did you watch this cartoon?" These kind of things are happening as if it's like a chit chat kitty party. I don't think it's going to, and then in the end, they say, "Okay, pay me this fees." Why we? So this rebellion is already growing in India, where parents don't want to pay unless school come up with a new system. They have.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right there. You touched a little bit on this term that I use all the time called purpose. What's the purpose? So, what's the purpose of calculus? If you understand Newton and why Newton came up with it, then you create your own purpose. Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I mean, I know it now. I'm a mathematician, so yeah, I probably remembered all this sort of useless stuff going forward. But it had meaning to me at the time, because I was fortunate to have a teacher that would give it meaning. A lot of teachers today go through the motions; they don't give it meaning. You know, what does a young male or female that wants to be a hair stylist, why do they need to pass O-level maths? Now, the point is, there are elements of O-level maths that are going to be really important to them as they move forward, you know, not just in the cutting hair arena, but when they have their own salon or franchise of salons, or buy into a franchise, or pay a retainer because they need to buy their seat in the salon. And there are elements of maths at O level that are really important for that, you know. And I'm not talking about value here. I'm talking about, you know, 1 + 1 actually always equals 2. And that's the whole point. So if you can have meaning in the classroom, you can get more engagement. You just mentioned, you know, hello kids, did you have a nice weekend? Did you see the cartoon? There is nothing wrong in that. But if it continues for 45 minutes, there's everything wrong in that. That's not engagement. That's desperation. So we have got to help teachers, you know. Let's face it. They didn't go through their training courses to teach in front of a computer. I bet none of their learning, none of their presentations, none of their teaching qualifications actually were, there wasn't 1% of their course that says you will be marked by your digital performance. So we can't blame the teaching profession. You know, we got to help the teaching profession. However, when you mention the private school arena, this is now a business. So the people that need to be re-educating the teachers are not me and you, it's the owners of the businesses. They will therefore get a better value proposition for you as a parent, and you're prepared to pay.
Absolutely, Neville. So the schools have to think, recalibrate their business, maybe let go their land, build a mall. I don't care. But as far as the school is concerned, I think they have to get a new system, which is partly based on physical presence using a camera, and also based on certain quizzes, like a K-12 system, online e-learning system, which has to marry along with this one. So they need a system. They need to train their teachers to online arena, and they also have to get the right attitude. So I think they have to change the whole business model. They have to also change the attitude of the teachers, and they have to also change their teaching style, because coming in front of the students, 40 students or 20 students all the time, looking at the bedroom of the teacher, is not training them anything. And you know, why they have to understand calculus, and why they have to understand Pythagoras theorems and Archimedes principle, because when they grow up, when they cross 18 years of life, all these equations will stare in their eye whenever they look out. Even, you know, when you have to walk on the street, whether you go straight and then make a 90-degree turn, you need to know exactly, you know, how you're doing. It's a life skill. So you know, I'm very worried if my children don't understand these life skills, which we call mathematics or social studies or language, what they are going to do. That is my real worry.
It's a concern. I wouldn't say it's a worry, and it's only a concern because you're not in control of your children's education. But the good thing, as far as your kids are concerned, is they've got you as a father, so that really helps. And lots of kids don't have that relationship. You know, whether we like it or not, they just don't have it. So parents really, over the last 4 or 5 months, have really had to step up to the plate And equally, lots of parents that I've been speaking to, and believe you me, I speak to thousands and we talk with thousands on different platforms around the world. They are suddenly, a lot of them are saying, I didn't realize how such a difficult job teachers had. Now that's an awareness in itself. That's a tick in the box. So at least that's an opportunity. But of course, then it's going to come back to, but I'm paying for it. Okay. So although I've had this kick of reality in that my kids are now working from home on the screen and I'm having to spend more time with my child's education, I do expect the teacher, I do expect the education system that I'm paying extra for to deliver the goods, the value proposition. So you mentioned lots of things that schools need to be thinking about. I've an acquaintance who's a very big architect, a guy called Norman Foster, of Foster and Partners. He, many years ago, talked about the changing spaces of a building. So in other words, there's no such thing, there should be no such thing as a bespoke building anymore. It should be interchangeable. You should be able to, just by shifting the furniture around, change the area to make it more meaningful for a different cause.
Right.
Put sliding doors in, change the windows, etc., etc., etc. And he talks about this, go on to YouTube. He does a fascinating lecture at Oxford University about we need to be thinking about these spaces differently. And he's very critical of the education system. We have these huge buildings, hundreds of rooms, all decked out in 1960s way of teaching. I'm sure you've seen them everywhere, Yeah. Big windows on one side. It's almost like a triangle or a rectangle. And on the outside are all rooms. All the teachers' rooms are all in the middle. So typically they don't have any light. So they're all enclosed. But all of the teaching rooms are all on the outside, all the way around. And there's this huge corridor that goes round and round and round the building. Some schools, of course, started off with a small rectangle and then added on. And typically, when they've added on, it actually really hasn't been for ergonomic, flow reasons, certainly not for COVID. It's been for what space have we got to utilize? How can we fit more rooms into that area? And all the rooms are decked out in the same way. There's like 3 rows across the room. There's 3 rows of tables. They're all regimented, one in front of the other. They've all got the same seat. There's a blackboard at the front. These days they've got whiteboards, overhead projectors. The teacher's always at the front. It's almost like we're robots. We haven't moved forward. And maybe the way we teach needs to move forward. Certainly now, because of the digital arena, it's having to move forward. Teachers, the best teachers in the world are not just educators. They engage and they entertain. They tell jokes. They know when to tell a joke. They know how many jokes they should be telling. They command the right behavior. It's easy to do that when you've got 30 children in front of you, but not on a screen. It's really difficult.
That is why there is a need for school to invest in a new type of education system, and these squares or the crosses that the design of the schools are, either they are squares or they are crosses. I think that is their property. They can do something else with that. But when it comes to education, they have to hire the right teacher who can connect with the kids digitally. The teacher should have right attitude. So I think your company is already doing a lot of work in attitude building. Maybe you can help them. Third is they need to invest in a new platform, which is a combination of e-learning and physical training. that has to come together, and the teachers needs to be trained. So I think this whole school arena needs to recalibrate, because you know Neville, home study is not a new subject. It has been around
No,
for 50 years.
I did part home study as well because I did homework. That's home study. And we didn't have. I didn't have a study that I could go to. I was on the dining room table along with my three other brothers that was all doing homework. You know, so and we weren't doing the same homework, but we did ask each of the other one for some help every now and again. But that's what we're missing at school. We're missing that collegiate type arena. Don't get me wrong, by the way, that when you got four young adolescent men in the house, it's not all rosy. There's lots of fights. Okay, but it's called family life. But as I say, we didn't have bespoke areas. It was, okay, we've all had dinner and we all had dinner at the same time. Unlike today, it's whenever the kids roll in. We all had dinner at the same time, and then we cleared, we did the washing up, and bingo, we were straight to homework. And so we've all been home studied, really, in some sort of shape or form. As we say, we're not gonna solve the situation here, but for all you teachers out there, or for all of you owners of these new education arenas, and for parents, come and talk with us. We haven't got all the solutions, but we can certainly help you find them, because it's what's going to be right for you.
Absolutely, Neville. In fact, so I think in today's discussion, three things are very clear, that and also the education policy in India has changed at the right time. The new policy follows a totally different format. So I think schools have to take cognizance of that. Also look at what systems they can adapt. They have to invest money in buying the software solution, or maybe free, we don't know. But they have to definitely get into new arena of a new systems, and then have a new engagement model with the kids. So I think these are the three things that we have come out with. And last, which is the most important, is change the attitude of the teachers. Get the teachers who really want to teach, and teachers should improve their attitudes towards digital training. So I think that is something that your company can help with. So, dear viewers, reach out to us and we can have this in the right way.
You're absolutely right. No teacher was born or trained to do what they're doing digitally. So listen out, you owners out there of the education system. You need to invest in that development. It's not training. It's development. It's personal development, and teachers need it just as much as the students do.
Thank you very much, Neville. We will catch up again tomorrow, and tomorrow is Sorty Wednesday.
Sorty Wednesday. Look forward to it. Enjoy your day, CK.
Bye-bye.
Bye.